Rain hammered the floor-to-ceiling windows of Ashford Industries. Rosalie Bennett stood in the marble lobby, canvas bag pressed against her chest, hands trembling despite 1,000 mental rehearsals. The receptionist barely looked up before pointing her toward the top floor. The elevator climbed. Rosalie watched her reflection in polished steel. Paint-stained fingers. Exhausted eyes. 29 days since the bank's ultimatum. One left. The doors opened to silence and marble. An assistant led her through corridors that smelled of leather and ambition until they reached an office overlooking the entire city. Damian Ashford sat behind a desk carved from dark wood. In magazines, he looked untouchable. Golden hair. Eyes like winter lakes. In person, those eyes held something sharper. Predatory. He was younger than expected. Maybe 35. With features too perfect to trust. His navy suit was armor. Miss Bennett. He didn't stand. His voice was smooth, controlled, the sound of someone who'd never begged. Exactly on time. I appreciate punctuality. Rosalie forced herself forward. She placed documents on his desk. Mr. Ashford, I came about the loan extension. My gallery needs 3 more months. We have an exhibition that could change everything. He didn't touch the folder. Instead, he studied her like a painting with flaws. I've reviewed your financials, Miss Bennett. Your gallery will fail regardless. The debt is substantial. Your father borrowed against assets you didn't own. Each word landed like a blow. Her carefully constructed hope crumbled. Please, there must be something. I'll work. I'll do anything to repay. Anything. He leaned back, fingers steepled. That's a dangerous word. I mean it. Her voice surprised her with its strength. I'm not afraid of hard work. Damian stood, moving to the rain-streaked window. His reflection looked ghost-like against the storm. When he spoke again, his tone shifted. I have a proposal, Miss Bennett. One that would clear your debt entirely. Hope flared in her chest. What kind of proposal? He turned. Something calculated flickered in his expression. Marriage. I need a wife for exactly 18 months. You need financial salvation. We can provide each other with precisely what we require. The world tilted. Rosalie gripped his desk. You can't be serious. I'm always serious about business. My board believes a married CEO appears more stable. There's a merger pending. My personal life has become inconveniently discussed. You would play my wife in public. In private, separate lives. After 18 months, a quiet divorce. You walk away debt-free with a substantial settlement. This is insane, Rosalie whispered. You don't even know me. I know enough. You're educated, articulate, desperate enough to consider this. You have no family left to complicate matters. Your father's debts isolated you from friends. You're alone, Miss Bennett. That makes you perfect. The cruelty of his accuracy stung worse than any insult. She wanted to throw his offer back, to walk out with dignity. But she thought of her gallery, the artists who depended on her, her mother's dreams before cancer took her. What exactly would you expect from me? Damian returned to his desk, producing a contract thick as a novel. Everything is outlined here. Public appearances, social functions, residency in my penthouse. You'll have your own quarters. No physical expectations beyond what appearances demand. A kiss for cameras, perhaps. Nothing more? And if I refuse, then I'll see you in bankruptcy court next week. No malice. Just fact. Rosalie took the contract with shaking hands. Pages of legal terminology might as well have been another language. How long do I have? Until morning. The contract requires immediate execution. That night, Rosalie sat in her tiny apartment above the gallery, reading every word. It was mechanical, cold, a business transaction dressed in matrimonial language. No mention of emotion. No clause for what happened if feelings developed. She thought about calling someone. But who would understand? Her phone had been quiet for months. Friends had drifted away as debt consumed her life. She was alone. Just as Damian said, at dawn, she called the number on his card. I accept, she said when he answered. voice alert despite the hour. Wise decision, Miss Bennett. My driver will collect you at noon. Bring what you need. The wedding is scheduled for tomorrow evening. The line went dead. Rosalie sat in growing light, wondering if salvation always felt this much like surrender. The penthouse existed in a different atmosphere. Rosalie stood in the entrance hall. Single suitcase, pathetic against white marble and geometric art, everything gleamed with museum sterility. She could see her reflection in polished floors. A small figure swallowed by space designed to impress, not comfort. Damian emerged from a hidden hallway, now in casual clothes that probably cost more than her monthly rent used to be. He moved with choreographed precision, wasting no energy. Your rooms are on the east wing, he gestured for her to follow. Her quarters were larger than her entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. A king bed with sheets that looked untouched. A bathroom with heated floors. Everything white and cream and emptiness. The wedding is at 8, Damian said from the doorway. I've arranged for hair and makeup. The dress is in your closet. We'll sign the marriage license afterward. Questions? Why me? The words escaped before she could stop them. You could have anyone. Something flickered across his face, almost like pain. Then it vanished. Anyone else would want something I can't give. You want money? That's simpler. You think you understand me. I think we understand each other perfectly. Neither of us believes in fairy tales anymore. He turned to leave, then paused. Don't test me, Miss Bennett. I may be offering you salvation, but I'm not a saint. And I'm not your property, Mr. Ashford. He looked back, and for the first time, something like respect touched his eyes. Good. I'd hate to marry someone without a spine. The wedding was clinical. A judge in Damian's study. 2 witnesses from his legal team. Rosalie wore a cream dress that fit perfectly, because of course it did. Damian had thought of everything. Do you take this woman? The judge droned. I do. Damian's voice was steady. And do you take this man? Rosalie looked at Damian. Really looked. Behind his perfect features, she saw exhaustion. Walls built so high, nothing could climb them. Loneliness disguised as control. I do. The kiss was brief, mechanical, his lips cold against hers. Then it was done. She was Mrs. Ashford. A business transaction complete. The witnesses left. The judge left. Rosalie stood in the study, golden band heavy on her finger. There's a gala Friday, Damian said, pouring whiskey he didn't offer to share. My first public appearance as a married man? You'll need appropriate attire. I'll have my assistant handle it. You mean your assistant will dress your new doll? He turned sharply. If you're going to throw accusations, at least make them accurate. You agreed to this. I agreed because I had no choice. Everyone has choices, Miss Bennett. You simply didn't like yours. He drained the whiskey. We should discuss boundaries. I work late, often through the night. I won't disturb you. In return, I expect the same courtesy. We maintain separate lives under the same roof. No questions about my schedule or whereabouts. What am I supposed to do? Sit in my wing and wait to be paraded out like a show pony. You're free to pursue your art, your gallery, though I suggest you let it go. Focus on something new. Rage flared hot in her chest. That gallery is all I have left of my mother. Your mother is dead. Your father destroyed her legacy. Clinging to ruins won't resurrect either of them. The slap cracked through the study before Rosalie realized she'd moved. Her palm stung. Damian's cheek reddened. He didn't flinch, didn't speak, just stared at her with those winter eyes. Get out, she whispered. This is my home, then I'll leave. She made it 3 steps before his voice stopped her. Not loud, not angry. Something else entirely. My mother collected art. Watercolors mostly. Beach scenes. She said they reminded her of freedom. He was still facing the window, back rigid. She hung herself in the gallery of our family estate when I was 12. Used a scarf I'd given her for Christmas. Rosalie froze. My father removed every painting that same day. Burned them in the courtyard. Said art was for the weak. For people who couldn't handle reality. His reflection in the dark window looked hollow. So when I suggest you let your gallery go, Miss Bennett, it's not cruelty. It's experience. Some things are too painful to save. He walked past her, footsteps echoing on marble. The gala is Friday. Be ready by 7. Rosalie stood alone in the study, hands still stinging, heart hammering against ribs. She'd thought Damian Ashford was a monster made of ice. She was beginning to realize he was something far more dangerous, a man trying desperately not to feel anything at all. Friday arrived wrapped in expensive fabric and false smiles. Rosalie stood before the mirror in a midnight blue gown that clung like water. Diamond earrings she hadn't chosen sparkled cold against her skin. She looked like someone else, someone who belonged in Damian's world. The gala glittered with wealth and power. Champagne flowed. Conversations hummed with carefully calculated words. Damian kept his hand on the small of her back, steering her through introductions, playing the devoted husband with practiced ease. My wife, Rosalie. He said it smoothly to a silver-haired board member, the same voice he'd used to discuss quarterly earnings. Charming, the man said, eyes sliding over her like she was a new acquisition. Ashford, you've surprised us all. We'd begun to think you incapable of sentiment. Damian's smile didn't reach his eyes. I'm full of surprises, Richard. Ours blurred together. Rosalie smiled until her face ached, laughed at jokes that weren't funny. Let Damian touch her shoulder, her hand, her waist. All for show. All a lie. Then she saw her, a woman in red across the ballroom. Stunning, confident, staring at Damian with naked longing. Who is that? Rosalie asked quietly. Damian's hand tightened almost imperceptibly on her waist. No one important. But the woman was moving toward them, champagne glass raised like a weapon. Damian, her voice was honey and venom. How domestic you've become. And this must be the famous wife, Vivian. His tone went arctic. This isn't the time. When is the time? You stopped returning my calls 3 weeks ago. Right before your sudden marriage? Vivian's smile was sharp. She turned to Rosalie. Did he tell you about us? Or was our year together not worth mentioning? The ballroom seemed to hold its breath. Rosalie felt eyes turning toward them, whispers starting. Ow. There is no us, Damian said, voice low and dangerous. There never was. We had an arrangement. It ended. An arrangement. Vivian laughed bitterly. Is that what you call it now? Tell me, Mrs. Ashford, did he promise you forever too? Or were you smart enough to get it in writing? That's enough. Damian moved between them. Leave. Now. Why? Afraid she'll learn the truth. Vivian's eyes glittered. That you're incapable of loving anyone? That you use people and discard them? I gave you a year of my life, Damian. You gave me nothing. You gave me a year hoping I'd give you my name and fortune, Damian corrected coldly. When I wouldn't, you sold stories to the press. Don't rewrite history to paint yourself the victim. Vivian turned her attention back to Rosalie. Whatever he's promised you, it's a lie. He'll drain you dry and throw you away like he does everyone else. He's empty inside. A beautiful shell with nothing underneath. Security was approaching. But Damian raised a hand, stopping them. He looked at Vivian with something almost like pity. You're right about one thing. I am empty. But you knew that from the beginning. You just thought you could fix me. His voice dropped. No one can, Vivian. Not even someone who deserves to try. The words hung there, heavy with truth. Vivian's eyes filled with tears. She set her champagne glass down with trembling hands and walked away, shoulders rigid with wounded pride. The ballroom resumed its hum. Crisis averted. Just another scene at a gala. Damian turned to Rosalie. We're leaving. The ride home was silent. Rosalie stared out the window at city lights blurring past. When they reached the penthouse, Damian poured whiskey with shaking hands. You should know, he said without looking at her. Vivian wasn't lying. I used her. She wanted love. I wanted discretion and companionship without complications. When she started demanding more, I ended it. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know what you've married. I'm not a good man, Rosalie. I'm barely a man at all anymore. Just a collection of transactions and calculated moves. She moved closer. That's not true, isn't it? He finally met her eyes. I blackmailed you into marrying me to save my business reputation. I've spent 12 years turning myself into exactly what my father wanted. Cold, efficient, unfeeling congratulations. Mrs. Ashford, you're contractually bound to a monster. Well, stop it. Rosalie grabbed his arm. You told me about your mother. That wasn't a transaction. That was real, a moment of weakness I regret. Liar, she stepped closer. You're terrified of feeling anything because feeling means pain. But that doesn't make you empty. It makes you human. Damian's jaw clenched. You don't know what you're talking about. Then prove me wrong. The challenge hung between them. Show me the monster. Show me the empty shell. He stared at her. Something cracked in his expression. Then his mouth was on hers. Not gentle. Not calculated, desperate. His hands tangled in her hair. She tasted whiskey and fury and something that felt like breaking. When they pulled apart, both were breathing hard. That, he said roughly, was not part of the contract. No, Rosalie whispered. It wasn't. Damian backed away, running a hand through his hair. This can't happen. We have rules. Rules you made. Rules that keep this simple. Nothing about this is simple anymore. He looked at her like she'd stabbed him. You should go to your room. Is that an order? It's a mercy. Rosalie walked toward the east wing. At the doorway, she turned back. She was wrong about one thing, you know? Vivian, you're not empty. You're just buried. And I'm starting to think that's worse. Damian said nothing. Just stood there holding his whiskey glass like a lifeline. In her room, Rosalie pressed her fingers to her lips. They still burned from his kiss. From the taste of him, from the realization that she'd just crossed, a line neither of them could uncross. She'd thought this was a business arrangement. She'd thought she could keep her heart out of it. She'd been catastrophically wrong. 3 weeks passed in careful avoidance. Damian worked later. Rosalie spent days at her gallery, selling off pieces to collectors Damian's name had suddenly attracted. They existed in parallel lines, never quite touching, until the night Rosalie found him on the penthouse terrace at 2 a.m, whiskey bottle half empty beside him. Can't sleep? She asked softly. He didn't turn. Memories don't respect business hours. She sat beside him. The city sprawled below. 1,000,000 lives lived in amber light. Want to talk about it? Talking changes nothing. Maybe not. But carrying it alone breaks people. He was quiet for a long time. Then, today would have been my mother's 60th birthday. I always think about what she'd look like now. If the gray would suit her, if she'd have laugh lines, or if the sadness would have stayed in her eyes. I'm sorry. Don't be. I learned something valuable from her death. Love makes you vulnerable. Vulnerability gets you destroyed. Better to feel nothing than everything. That's not living. That's existing. Sometimes existing is all we can manage. He finally looked at her. You're different lately. Lighter somehow. The gallery sale is helping? It's helping me let go. Rosalie pulled her knees to her chest. You were right. Clinging to ruins wasn't saving my mother's legacy. It was drowning in my father's mistakes. What will you do now? I don't know. Maybe that's okay. They sat in comfortable silence. Then Damian's phone shattered the peace. He glanced at the screen and went rigid. What is it? The merger. His voice was hollow. It's falling apart. Richard and 2 other board members are pulling out. They're claiming I misrepresented my stability. Someone leaked that our marriage was a contract. Rosalie's blood went cold. Who does it matter? He stood, phone gripped white-knuckled. It's over. Everything I built for 12 years. Gone because I thought I could control this one thing. We can fix it. How? He laughed bitterly. Tell them the truth? That I blackmailed you into marrying me to salvage my image. That'll certainly restore their confidence. We make it real." The words fell between them like a bomb. Damian stared at her. "What are you saying?" Rosalie stood, heart hammering. "I'm saying we stop pretending. We make this marriage real. Show them it's not a contract. Show them you're capable of what they think you're not. That's insane. So is marrying a stranger to save my gallery. But here we are. You don't understand what you're offering." He moved closer. "To make this real would mean being with me. Truly with me. All my damage. All my impossibility. You'd be shackled to a man who doesn't know how to love. Maybe." Rosalie reached up, touching his face. "Or maybe you know how, and you're just terrified to try."
Rosalie?
Her name on his lips sounded like prayer and warning. "If I let myself feel anything for you, it won't be clean. It won't be simple. It'll be complicated and messy and probably devastating. Then devastate me." He kissed her like a man drowning, like she was air and salvation and danger all at once. When they broke apart, his forehead rested against hers. "I'll destroy you," he whispered. "Let me worry about that." The next morning, Damian called an emergency board meeting. Rosalie stood beside him in the conference room, fingers laced through his. "Gentlemen," Damian began, voice steady, "I understand there are concerns about my marriage. Let me be clear. Yes, it began as an arrangement. But what started as business has become something I didn't expect. Something real. My wife has shown me that being vulnerable isn't weakness. It's courage. And I'm choosing that courage now." Richard leaned back, skeptical. "Pretty words, Ashford, but words are cheap. Then let me offer something more valuable." Damian's hand tightened on Rosalie's. "I'm revising the merger terms. Any profits beyond projected earnings will be distributed equally among shareholders. I'm also establishing a foundation in my mother's name for mental health awareness. My wife will run it." The room went silent. It was a massive financial sacrifice. The billions potentially off the table. "Why?" Richard asked. "Because some things matter more than money." Damian looked at Rosalie. "I'm finally learning that." Richard exchanged glances with the other board members. "We'll need time to consider. Take all the time you need, but know this." Damian's voice hardened. "With or without this merger, I'm building something different. A company that values people, not just profits. You can be part of that future, or you can leave. Your choice," they filed out. Rosalie and Damian stood alone in the conference room. "That was a massive risk," she said quietly. "Sometimes the biggest risk is playing it safe. They might still vote no." "I know," he turned to her. "But I meant what I said. Every word. You've changed me, Rosalie. Made me want to be more than what I became." She smiled. "So we're really doing this? Making it real? Terrifyingly real?" He pulled her close. "I can't promise I'll be good at it. Fuck. I can't promise I won't mess this up spectacularly. What? I'm not asking for perfect. I'm asking for honest. Then honestly." He cupped her face. "I'm falling for you. I've been since you slapped me and called me out on my walls. And it terrifies me more than losing everything else combined." "Good." She kissed him softly. "Fear means it matters." His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then went still. "What? Richard? They're voting yes? Unanimously?" Looked at her with wonder. "It worked. Your sacrifice worked." "Our sacrifice," she corrected. But something cold settled in her stomach. She'd seen the way he looked at that message, like a man who'd just won a war. And winning could change everything. That night, Rosalie couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. She found Damian in his study, surrounded by merger documents. "When do you have to sign?" she asked. "Tomorrow. It's finally happening." He looked up, smiling. "Everything I've worked for." "And then what?" "Then we have everything. The company. The merger. A real marriage." "Do we?" Rosalie moved closer. "Or do you have everything and I'm just part of the package now?" His smile faded. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I just watched you choose to save your company by making our marriage real. Not because you wanted it, because it was strategic. That's not fair, isn't it?" Her voice cracked. Tell me honestly, Damian. If the merger hadn't been falling apart, would you have ever let yourself feel anything for me? He opened his mouth, closed it, and in that silence, Rosalie found her answer. I thought so. Tears burned her eyes. I convinced myself you were changing, but you just found a new angle to play, new transaction to win. Rosalie, wait. She was already gone. The sound of her door slamming, echoing through the penthouse like a gunshot. Rosalie packed at dawn, not much. Just what she'd brought. Everything else felt tainted by money and manipulation. She was zipping her suitcase when Damian appeared in her doorway, still in yesterday's clothes. Don't. His voice was raw. Please don't go. Why shouldn't I? This was all just another move on your chessboard. You're right. The admission stopped her cold. He stepped into the room, and she saw he'd been crying. Damian Ashford, the man made of ice, had been crying. You're absolutely right. When the merger started falling apart, my first instinct was strategy. How to fix it, how to win. That's all I've known for 12 years. Then let me go. I can't. He moved closer. Because somewhere between signing that contract and standing in that conference room, something changed. You asked when I would have let myself feel anything for you. The truth, I already did. Before the merger fell apart. Before any of it. Damian, the night you found me on the terrace. When you sat with me and didn't demand anything, didn't try to fix me, just existed beside me. His hands shook. That's when I knew. I was already gone. Rosalie wanted to believe him, desperately. Then why didn't you say anything? Because I'm a coward. He laughed bitterly. I'm terrified of needing someone, of giving them the power to destroy me, like my father destroyed my mother. So I told myself it was strategy, safer that way. And now I'm more terrified of losing you than of getting hurt. He knelt before her, actually knelt. I'm not asking you to stay for the merger. I'm asking you to stay for me. The broken, damaged man who's trying to learn how to feel again, who's probably going to mess this up 100 more times, but wants the chance to try. Tears streamed down her face. How do I know this isn't another strategy? You don't. That's what trust is. He pulled something from his pocket. Papers. This is the contract we signed. And this, he produced a lighter, is what I think of it. He set the pages on fire. They watched together as the contract burned, turning to ash on the marble floor. No agreement, he said softly. No transaction. Just two broken people choosing each other. If you'll have me. Rosalie pulled him to his feet. Tell me again, without the grand gestures. Just the truth. I love you. The words sounded rusty, unpracticed. But real, I'm terrible at it. I'll probably be terrible at it for a long time. But I love you, Rosalie Bennett Ashford. And I'm asking you to teach me how to do this right. She kissed him, soft at first, then deeper, tasting salt and smoke and possibility. I love you too, she whispered against his mouth. You impossible, infuriating man. Is that a yes? It's a maybe. We figure this out together. He smiled. Actually smiled. I'll take it. They stood among the ashes of their contract, holding each other as dawn broke over the city. It wouldn't be easy. They were both too damaged to scarred for easy. But maybe that was the point. Later that morning, Damian called Richard. The merger, Richard said. Ready to sign. I'm withdrawing. Damian said calmly. Rosalie squeezed his hand. The terms are good, but I've realized something. I want to build an empire. I want to build a life. Those aren't the same thing. Have you lost your mind? Probably, but for the first time in 12 years, I'm finding it again. He looked at Rosalie. Counteroffer? Smaller merger. 60% of the original. The rest goes to the foundation. Non-negotiable. Silence. Then you've changed, Ashford. I have. Someone showed me there's more to life than winning. We'll need to present this to the board. Take your time. I'm not going anywhere. He hung up. Rosalie raised an eyebrow. That was reckless. That was necessary. He pulled her into his lap. I spent 12 years becoming my father. Time to become myself instead. And who is that? I'm still figuring it out. But I know he's someone who chooses love over strategy. who burns contracts and takes risks, who's terrified but doing it anyway. It sounds exhausting. It sounds like living, she laughed. When did you become wise? About 5 minutes ago? It's very new. I might backslide, I'll remind you. Promise. Promise. 6 months later, Rosalie stood in the gallery opening. It's not her old gallery, a new one. Focused on emerging artists. It's funded by the foundation. It's free for anyone who needed space to create. Damian stood beside her, arm around her waist. Not for show, just because. Your mother would have loved this, she said softly. Yeah, his voice caught. She would have. Any regrets? He turned to face her fully. About the merger. No. About burning the contract. Never. About marrying you? He kissed her forehead. Only that I didn't do it for the right reasons from the start. Got there eventually. We did. He smiled, messily, painfully, but we got there. An artist approached, wanting to thank them. Then another. The evening filled with conversations and laughter and hope. Later, driving home, Rosalie watched the city lights blur past. What are you thinking? Damian asked. That I walked into your office expecting salvation and found something better? What's that, partnership? Was someone brave enough to change? He brought her hand to his lips. I couldn't have done it without you. Yes, you could have. No, you just needed permission to try. Then thank you for giving me that. Thank you for being worth it. They pulled into the underground garage, rode the elevator up to the penthouse that finally felt like home. No longer a museum of wealth and isolation, just a space where two people lived and loved and learned. That night, tangled in sheets that smelled of both of them, Damian whispered against her hair. I'm still terrified, you know. That I'll wake up and this will be another transaction I've somehow ruined. Then I'll remind you every day, Rosalie murmured. This is real. We're real. And real things are messy and complicated and absolutely worth it. Even when I'm impossible. Especially then. He held her tighter. Outside, the city continued its endless symphony of life. Inside, two people who'd started as strangers became contractual partners, and finally chose to become something infinitely more dangerous and beautiful. They chose to become real. The end.